As you start this podcast episode, I want you to imagine a scenario. Imagine you wake up on a Monday morning, there's no alarm, there's no commute, you finally have no boss for the first time in your life. You did it. You finally left the job, you bet on yourself, and today is day one of building something that's actually yours. It's yours, right? It's yours. Now imagine the afternoon. You get a call from one of your biggest clients. Now, this isn't just any client. This is a client that has been through thick and thin with you for over 3 years. And they say, hey, you know what? Unfortunately, we love your services. We love what you do. But unfortunately, we have just wanted to go a different direction for a while now. And ultimately, that results in not doing a monthly retainer with you anymore. You're devastated, right? What you've been working for, like that's kind of what you were dependent on going into your entrepreneurship journey, and you suddenly get swept under your feet. Now imagine the next day you get another big client calling you and they say, Jake, we love what you do. Again, we love what you do, but unfortunately we want to go with someone who's a little bit more specified within our industry. Therefore, we do not need your services starting next month. Again, you sit there in disbelief. After you have taken the biggest risk of your entire career, you are faced with two massive, after taking the biggest risk in your career, you are faced with two massive, devastating blows that are hard to recover from. You're sitting there, you're doing the math, you're trying to figure out the expenses and how you're going to pay for this new lifestyle. And suddenly that little voice creeps in that says, am I ever going to get another client again? Like, is this ever going to become positive again? Ultimately, this is where I was no more than a month ago. And you could say that it's a coincidence. You could say that maybe you just weren't working hard enough with those clients or you weren't getting the results that they wanted. But ultimately, I think this is entrepreneurship in a nutshell. And if there's one thing that experience has taught me in the last 3 weeks, it's that when one door closes, another one opens. And I've never fully been able to trust that. But it's because we live in a world where highlights demand our attention. Like we go on LinkedIn and we see so many people who are getting a new job or discovering this new fancy innovative thing or are ultimately getting a massive raise. And you are sitting there wondering how I'm going to pay my bills the next month. I think that is entrepreneurship. And honestly, that's just life in a nutshell. It's up and down. It doesn't go as smooth as we want. And I think if we were to look behind the curtains of every entrepreneur and every person in every career, you'll see that there have been a mounting amount of losses that have led to the wins. So that's ultimately why I've decided to start this podcast, because we hear so much about the positive and we never hear about the monumental work that it takes to get the wins. So my name is Jake Mix, and like you just heard, I quit my full-time job to build a marketing agency from scratch. Now, I have been working on this marketing agency, kind of a glorified freelancer, for over 10 years. I've had clients, I've done so many different types of marketing with so many different people, and I've ultimately decided that going into this journey, I need to document the whole thing. The wins, the losses, the real numbers, the moments, honestly, nobody talks about, because that is what's fascinating. And I have a feeling that if I give that experience raw and authentic, that people will start to see that it's okay. People will start to see that there's no success. There's no secret to success. People will finally see that things that are worth building take effort and take hard work and take a lot of discouragement and a lot of despair. But if you keep going, you will get there. So what am I going to break down in this podcast? Ultimately, what I want to do every single week is give you a play-by-play of what has happened. Now, I'm going to try to do that without a subjective opinion, because I ultimately want to give you the facts and you can decide whether it's been a positive or a negative. Then after I give that, I want to give my 5 or 6 lessons that I have learned and how much they apply to those individual events that have happened. Now, granted, you are going to see this journey over time. You're going to see if it's worked, if it hasn't worked. I'm going to try to get granular in the details so that you know exactly what's happening at all times. Now, granted, there's certain information that I can't share because I am working with clients and I do have several NDAs and there's different things that are in place. But ultimately, I will try to be as transparent as possible, especially with my mindset to give you the full picture of what's happening. Now, let's talk a little bit about what has happened in the last 3 weeks. I quit my job. I actually was fortunate to have another big gig lined up, and this gig will actually demand quite a bit of my time. I am kind of going to be a contracted director of media. So that will require me to basically build out a team, to basically help run and streamline those efforts, but ultimately it is still a contracted role. It's ultimately a contracted role. Now, what's happened with the other clients? When I quit my full-time job, I had 3 clients. Ultimately, 2 of those have now gone away. And what I was faced with in the last 3 weeks is trying to figure out what to do next. And ultimately, what I had learned is it's all in the numbers, right? Like you have to put in the effort. And oftentimes it's not about whether you're right or wrong or whether you're doing things correct. It's literally just about talking to enough people to see if it makes sense. And so I'd reached out to some connections to see if they could connect me with someone within the pest control industry. That is ultimately the industry that I'm going hard after right now. I'm ultimately trying to scale a marketing agency within the pest control space, an offer that focuses on retention marketing and really bringing repeat revenue to home service companies, because those home service companies desperately need some efforts, right? Some efforts in place to basically nurture the leads and the customers that they do have. So ultimately, I am up to actually 3 clients now. I've gotten 2 more since, which has been somewhat of a battle. It has not been as easy as you probably have thought. It's been 3 weeks, but ultimately I have established and planted some seeds over time that really didn't come to fruition until I quit my job. And so that's ultimately how I got those 2 clients. And I'm currently talking to more to try to get more income, but that's kind of the goal. So I'm working with 3 clients. I do have a newborn at home. I have obviously my family. There's so much real life that's kind of wrapped up in all this. And I know this is just the first episode. I'm going to go into some of these certain learnings and what's happening, but I just need to set the tone for what's happening. Now, let's go into a couple of learnings that I have basically taken away the last 3 weeks before I end. Learning 1, it's so important to note that I or you don't necessarily have a marketing problem. We have a numbers problem. Okay. Like we just haven't done it enough times. Like I think about the people, I used to think like, oh man, my offer isn't good enough. But ultimately I talked to like 2 people. The 2 people gave me like mixed responses. And then I got discouraged enough to be like, I'm not going to talk to anyone else. I'm going to pivot. Ultimately, you just got to talk to enough people and do enough outreach to finally see if it's going to work. Now that might take time, but it will work and you will see fruition come from it. Learning number 2, is it normal to think you'll never get another client? Yes, I would say everyone does. After I had that moment with myself, I actually talked to a lot of different colleagues. I have several people within the entrepreneur space, and everyone goes through that. Everyone faces this doubt that's happening, and ultimately it's scary, it's terrifying, but yes, everyone has that feeling, and yes, you can overcome that feeling. And I think how you overcome that feeling, or what I did to overcome it, is ultimately just take massive action. Like even when you're not feeling it, you just need to know like, okay, I'm going to reach out to like 25 people today that I know that I think might know this. And even if only one of those come back, that is enough to create the momentum that you need to get to the next level. This leads me to lesson number 3. I think confidence comes from action. I was scared to death to quit my full-time job, and I'm going to give more context of how that happened and basically the structure that I put in place to make sure that it happened correctly. But this journey of taking action and finally quitting that job has given me so much confidence and so much happiness and so much growth. And yes, it's already been difficult. I was actually just an hour ago laying on this couch thinking, what am I going to do? Like, how am I going to do this? How am I going to fulfill everything that I've promised to people? How am I going to get more clients? How am I going to provide for my family? It's completely normal, but confidence comes from action and just doing things every single day that gets you to where you want to go. So I'm going to say one more thing before we end the episode. Most people who say they want to build something never leave the job, okay? It's so incredibly important that if you feel driven to do that and you set up the right structure, you can leave. And yes, it's messy. And to be honest, like there's still a long way to go for me and I'm figuring it out in public. But that is the literal purpose of this show, is to inspire you and give you confidence to quit or to continue entrepreneurship journey or to honestly just never give up. That's the show. That's what I'm here for. And I'm so excited to be on this journey for me. And I'm so excited to be on this journey with you. Thank you for joining today's episode, and we will talk to you next week.